Welcome to the Dumb Idea Podcast Show with Mike and Alex. We thank you for joining us as we have a couple of beers and a cigar and talk about what's going on in our lives. Grab an adult beverage and a smoke and settle in with us. Please like, subscribe, and comment on each show so we can hear whether you agree or disagree with our take on things. Listen wherever your favorite podcasts are and at www.dumbideapodcast.com. So, interesting topic to talk about a little bit this time is, my girls they're getting a little older. They're starting to watch, stuff other than cartoons. Getting a little out of, they're kind of into the teeny bopper stuff, but they also like an interesting show, been around on Netflix for a while, called Fuller House. It was the reboot of Full House with Candace Cameron Bure. And to be honest with you, I enjoyed the show. They only had 5 seasons of it. We blew through all 5 seasons. But it got me thinking, though. It got me thinking about how when we were younger, it was Thursday, must-see TV, and TGIF. Those were times when everyone would, it was the old water cooler conversation the next day, right? Or on Monday. So Thursday, on Friday, everyone was talking about the Thursday shows. Monday, everyone talked about the Friday shows, if they still remembered them. But you knew everyone was watching 8 to 10. There was that 2-hour block where they had 4 shows, 30-minute sitcoms, or maybe there was like 2 30-minute sitcoms and an hour-long show.
Yeah, there's usually like an hour-long show at the 9 or 10 o'clock slot before the news would start.
And I'm realizing now that there's nothing like that right now. There's nothing that compares for whatever reason. Yeah. People can blame it on the DVR, or people can blame it on the streaming services, right? Yeah, because you can watch it whenever you want. But there was always something about, I would sit down on the couch with my brother, mother, father, and we watched the same. It was good for the whole family could watch these shows. You didn't really have to worry too much. You have to worry about sexuality or the language, because let's face facts. I mean, as much as we're guys and we're like, oh, who cares about that? But it's definitely a little awkward when you got little kids and something a little...
Right, I'm not going to watch Game of Thrones with my 5-year-old.
Right, you can't watch that, with especially with the brother-sister action in the first 2 shows.
I'm not watching House of Cards with the kids, right, or Breaking Bad, even though that was on network. But it was really neat back when we were kids, because you did know what night it was based upon what was on TV, and there were certain shows that we always watched. I remember my dad loved Night Court, that he loved Cheers, and then Frasier. He loved that too. So we'd sit there when it was on. Now those shows came a little bit later, so when we were real little, we didn't see them.
But we had the Cosby Show.
Yep.
A Different World came after that when Lisa Bonet moved out of the house. I think Alf was the lovable alien. He was around at that time. But you also had, what was it, Frasier? It was Frasier, and there was I can't remember the names, but there were Cheers, like you said, Cheers, right?
Yep.
But there were, over the course of maybe 10, 12 years or so, there were a lot of good shows. The biggest one that came out of that, oddly enough, was Friends.
Yeah.
People don't remember that Friends was part of that Thursday night lineup.
Yep. It came, and it was on in the early slot too. It was on at 8.
Right. And Seinfeld.
Yep.
I mean, these were huge shows.
Yeah. That are still. I mean, I'm sure I'd love to get the royalty checks that they're getting from those, because they're on somewhere.
I heard some of them don't get royalty checks.
Oh, really?
I heard someone. Imagine if you were on that show, and it like, I think TBS plays Friends on a loop.
Yeah, there's the Friends, and then what's Special Victims Unit is. You can find Special Victims Unit on somewhere at all times. Yeah. And the thing is, now there's nothing on.
Right.
And I remember even the corny shows like the Family Ties and Who's the Boss, and they were just corny. The jokes were corny. What was the one with Alan Thicke?
Growing Pains.
Yes,
but it was a good. But listen though, I could watch those probably today and still enjoy them.
Yeah, because
there's nothing like a 30-minute corny show. And then the one I can remember. The newest one of them I can remember right now, and my wife and I used to watch it, was New Girl. Mm-hmm. It has Zooey Deschanel as kind of a goofball and the 3 roommates, and You know, 3 of them were kind of goofy and it was corny, but it was nice, light humor.
Yeah, nothing too heavy.
No, I didn't have to think about it. I could sit down, my brain could shut off, and I could laugh.
Right. And some of them, you know, I guess they kind of morphed into some of the shows like The Office, and because maybe people got tired of the corny jokes, and The Office with its dry sense of humor,
Right.
or Parks and Rec was kind of just a copy of The Office, and 30 Rock was a copy of The Office.
Right.
They kind of that same format, like there's no audience. It's looking at the ridiculous nature of whether it's the business world or government, and that's stuff that, like, you know, regular working stiffs can be like, oh yeah, I've definitely been there for that conversation and get a laugh out of it.
It's almost like scripted reality TV without the reality part of it.
Right.
But you're like, yeah, that could be real.
Yeah, just the most absurd moments. And when you look at it, you're like, yeah, like that's definitely, you know, something that I've heard a boss say, or that's been said to me, or that I've, you know, definitely heard of. So
Ron Swanson is my boss, probably.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, or Michael Scott is my boss. Like,
Yeah.
just some corny guy that just like makes you uncomfortable. Or once Ron Swanson, like, you're throwing everything at him and he makes you feel like a fool.
Yeah.
You know, it just makes you feel like you're unimportant.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't be there.
and you know, and that, you know, it's you know, you mentioned reality, and I think reality is kind of what killed a lot of these shows. You know, Survivor came out in the early 2000s. I remember in college we were watching Survivor. The first, I always thought Survivor was stupid. I was never an early adopter. I'm going to go and put that one on the record. It's still stupid. They're all stupid. Flame me if you want. They're all awful.
But here's the thing, even if you don't like it though, there were, and I don't know if it's still the case, at least with Survivor, that show was huge.
Yeah.
And look, The Bachelorette.
Yep.
The Bachelor. The Bachelor was so popular, they made The Bachelorette and Bachelor in Paradise. There's literally 2 spin-offs of this show.
Yeah.
That's how popular it was.
Then there's the Temptation Island, which is kind of like that. It's just garbage, trash TV.
I think I know why they went that way, though. Because with the DVR, people were... you could record it, watch it later. The thing with The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, or Bachelor in Paradise, if you don't watch it the day it's aired, or maybe like the day after, if you open up your news feed, there's the spoilers, right?
Yeah.
Or the people you're talking to. Oh, did you watch this last night?
Yeah.
In your text group or something, especially if you have a text group dedicated to that show.
Yeah.
If you don't watch it,
You're sunk.
You're spoiled. You're done for the week.
There's
They're
no
gonna
point.
let you know.
To me, it's like it's probably, you know, and I don't want to say that women aren't into sports, but like my wife would much rather watch The Bachelor than, you know, the Rangers. So I can say from the experience in my household that is the sports for her.
Right.
And I rarely ever watched a game, record a game, and watch it. Like, no, because people are going to talk about it. If it wasn't one of those things where I was working and couldn't watch it, I'd come home and immediately start watching the game or catch up during it. You're not going to be able to stay, you know, now maybe 10, 15 years ago, you could kind of stay in the dark, but now you can't because it's on your, people are texting back and forth. There's no way you can put yourself in a closet. And it's the same thing with the reality shows. But I also think with the reality shows that there was certainly a cost saving. They don't have to pay actors. They don't have to pay writers.
That's true.
They have to pay a caterer, whatever hack host is in charge. You know, pretty face host is in charge of it. The people go on for free. They're not making any money off of it.
Not until they leave,
right?
Because then they go, the ladies go Instagram model,
yeah, and
they get paid off of that. The men get their modeling gigs.
Yeah,
I mean, people laugh at male models, but they make a lot of money doing it.
Yeah,
and if you're on The Bachelor, guess what? You now don't have to worry about being scouted or found.
Right,
because you're found. You're it. That's it.
Yeah, and you know, slobs like us aren't on The Bachelor.
Well, you know,
I mean, I think it would be interesting.
Listen, I think there needs to be Bachelors in Dad Bod Paradise coming to a TV near you.
Right, but you know, those shows, like no one really, But the thing is, there's no classic TV coming out of this. Right. No one's going to go and say, God, Bachelor season whatever, that was...
You're not going back to season 2 of The Bachelor. However, you will binge watch all 9 or 10 seasons of Friends.
Yeah.
And you'll put that on. I mean, that's why TBS still rolls it they'll roll it, I think at like, what is it, 4:30 and 5 or 5 and 5:30 every night. After work, you come home. While you're cooking dinner, you're watching Friends at 5 and 5:30 on TBS. Or you've got your streaming service, whatever streaming service has it, you can just put it on and let them play.
Yeah.
And you'll play them in order, and it'll be just like you're rewatching the whole thing.
Yep.
And the shows are still funny. So people still watch them. But those shows, you didn't have to, they're not really working today because you don't have to watch them and worry about someone spoiling the episode for you.
Right.
You can watch it a week later.
Oh, yeah.
And even if someone drops hints about what happened, you don't care.
Yeah.
You're not, it's like you don't hear someone was eliminated, right? If you hear that, Joey got an acting part, sorry, fine. You can still watch the rest of the episode because the humor is in the episode itself.
Yeah.
The enjoyment isn't the result at the end of the show.
Right.
Right. And so, like, I think that's what these producers are having a problem with. Because if you put on a show like Friends, which I guess in this case would be like Blackish or The Neighborhood, or one of these shows.
I've never watched any of.
I've never watched them either. I know they're 30-minute shows. They're on a certain time, but you can DVR them and watch them at any time. Or what a lot of people do is they'll wait till the end of the season and binge it.
Well, that's what I did with Game of Thrones.
Right.
I was never into the show. I started watching Game of Thrones at the end of the season where they took the 2-year break. So I guess I was 7 to 8 or 6 into 7, whatever. So a bunch of people at work were talking about it. I had no idea. My youngest had just been born, so he was up all night. So I would just stay up all night and watch Game of Thrones. So here I am feeding this little baby and watching Game of Thrones and getting caught up, which was cool because this was all new to me.
Yeah. The weird thing with Game of Thrones was it was a show that people could spoil a little bit for you if you read about it, like while it was on, right? Because this was at a time when Game of Thrones, it was still right around the beginning of DVR, right? And so people would DVR and watch it later, but the spoilers weren't too huge. Yeah, so where like you couldn't, like, you had that hour show and there was a lot of nuance in there that you wanted to see, but that's kind of where it started though. Like that Game of Thrones, House of Cards, like, oh no, this happened to Frank. Yeah. And, but that's when the streaming, so that was Netflix and HBO at the time, and they were still using that weekly model. Even when Netflix, they had started putting out seasons of other shows, but they didn't do it with House of Cards. Yeah. House of Cards, they released once a week. I think it was every Sunday. Yeah. Sunday or Monday, I forgot which one.
Just like Disney did with The Mandalorian.
Yes.
They released that, and I don't like watching TV like that anymore.
Right.
So I'm a huge Star Wars fan, but when they started The Mandalorian, I waited. Yeah. Now, my buddy started watching it every episode. He'd want to talk about it. I'm like, nah, I haven't started it yet. Right. I'd wait till I'd usually wait till they had about 4 hours worth of content to watch, and then I'd sit there and binge watch it. Yep. And I did the same thing with Game of Thrones. I did the same thing with House of Cards. I did the same thing with Breaking Bad, The Wire. I'd never seen any of them when they came out, and I prefer to watch TV. I also don't like commercials. Right. I hate commercials. So, like, my favorite movie in the world is Top Gun. If Top Gun's on TV and there's commercials, I will not watch it because the commercials ruin it. So they put them in goofy places. It ruins the experience. So I don't watch TV that way. So
there are still some movies though that I'll watch. Like if Shawshank Redemption is on or Goodfellas, I'll watch it. I don't care. I'll take the commercials. I don't care. And and the funny part is, I've got them both on DVD. I could just put the DVD on and watch it. Yeah. But there's something about, hey, I found it. It's like a little prize I won, and I get Goodfellas, and I'll watch it. It doesn't matter where it started. I could be halfway through it, and I'll start watching it from there.
Yeah, and there's some movies that are just like a movie like that for me was Step Brothers. I had never seen Step Brothers from beginning to end. I'd come in, like, I've seen the whole movie, but I've never seen it from start to finish because it was always on TV, and I'd pick it up. Then they removed some of the jokes and some of the off-color humor to make it. And some networks are a little bit more conservative, so they won't say shit. They'll beep that out. Everyone knows what they're saying,
right?
You know, and it's like, come on, guys, like everyone has this movie memorized, but you're not saying the curse words because you don't want to get a fine or a letter. But they're not even, the FCC is not going after you for dropping the S bomb.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people they try and blame the streaming services for the death of live TV.
Mm.
The thing is, though, ABC, NBC, Fox, CBS, they're still free over the air, so you can't blame the cost of a cable bundle.
No.
For people tuning out.
Right.
Right? So then it comes to, okay, well, what kind of TV shows are you putting out there? Because people are watching shows. They're watching them on Netflix. They're watching them on Disney Plus. They're watching them on Hulu. They'll watch them on these streaming services, especially Netflix and even Amazon Prime.
Yep.
And I think it's because Netflix, and there's the buzzer. Just doing some laundry, folks. Don't worry. I think it's because Netflix and Amazon are paying up for the better shows.
Mm-hmm.
It's shows that are better written, more interesting content. Whether they're 30 minutes or whether they're an hour, it doesn't matter.
And they're not. So a 30-minute sitcom is 23 minutes long.
Yep.
Because you have to get your 7 minutes of commercials in there. Well, Netflix isn't. It's almost like the long form podcast. We could sit here and talk about TV for 2 hours if we wanted to, and if the audience wanted to listen to it for 2 hours, they would, or they could pause it or do whatever.
Right.
Network live TV, you're kind of boxed in. Really, the only things that get liberty with that are live sporting events and award shows. Other than that,
people aren't watching award shows.
No, no.
But the ratings from this last season were just dropping like a rock, and some of it could be, and this is where I think some of the writing has to take some of the blame for this,
mm-hmm.
because if Netflix and Amazon Prime and even Hulu to a certain extent, even though Hulu's owned by Disney and I believe partially ABC, I'm sorry, Disney is ABC.
Yeah.
It's Disney, and Disney owns a lot of the Fox stuff now. Disney, ABC, NBC is the other one. I think
NBC Universal or one of the
CBS has their own. They went off on their own with Paramount.
Mm-hmm.
Disney bought up a lot of Fox and their TV assets, so it's pretty much Disney and NBC that own Hulu, and basically the stuff that would have normally gone on ABC or NBC, they've started putting exclusive content on Hulu to
mm-hmm.
get people to subscribe to Hulu.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think with Netflix and Amazon buying up a lot of the better written shows, I think that some of the shows going on over-the-air network TV, especially during prime time, the writing is getting a little lazy.
Yeah.
And this is where this is going to go a little bit political. I'm going to get on my soapbox. Where there is a lot of, this is how you should live your life, this is how you should think writing in these shows. Now, is the messaging so different than it was back in the 80s and 90s? And I'm going to say no.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say the writing was better back then, especially if you want to get into a little bit of the wokeness.
Yeah.
All right. Back then, it was done through shows like The Cosby Show,
mm-hmm.
Family Matters,
mm-hmm.
A Different World. Think about it, A Different World was an extraordinary show. People don't give it the credit it should, but it showed back then young Black Americans in college bettering their lives.
Yeah.
In which it was the positive imagery that they're trying to put out now, but it was done in such a way, and I know people might crucify me for this, but it wasn't an in-your-face show.
Yeah.
It was literally just kids in college.
Right.
They didn't push that message on you. It was just that's what the show was.
Right.
Whereas now I think the message is now in the dialogue of the show. And in the past, during like the Cosby Show and the Family Matters, and in a different world, the dialogue was much more subtle. Like when Dr. Huxtable had the conversation with Theo. Mm-hmm. I mean, never mind the fact that it was a black family back in the 90s. Father was black and a doctor. Mm-hmm. And I forgot what Felicia Rashad did.
She was a lawyer.
She was a lawyer.
Yeah, and they lived in a brownstone in Manhattan.
Right. That was huge imagery back then.
Yeah.
But again, it was the show. It wasn't the over your face. It wasn't the over the top dialogue that they're doing now.
Right.
Yeah. It was like I saw there was clips from like the show The Neighborhood, where Cedric the Entertainer is having that hard talk with that guy. I remember Miss Schmidt from New Girl. It's like it was the dialogue was direct in your face. It was like there was no nuance to it. And I'm not saying that's putting people off, but when people watch a 30-minute show, they want to do what I used to do:
shut your brain off and laugh.
Shut your brain off, laugh, or maybe not even laugh, but just enjoy the show.
Yeah.
And so while the imagery from the Cosby Show in a different world, and Family Matters, the imagery sticks with me today. Mm-hmm. The message sticks with me today that minority families, black families, can be successful, or not can be. They're out there.
Yeah,
and it goes against the narrative of, well, black families aren't successful.
Right.
They're not this. They're not that. No. It's out there.
Yeah.
And that's what those shows for me, boy growing up in the suburbs that didn't live around too many minorities. Mm-hmm. That was the imagery for me. That put that seed in my brain and gave me that imagery. Now imagine what that did for a young black male or a young black family who didn't think there were any other families like them.
Right. Or
that lived in lower income homes that thought that was it for them. Well, now they get to see this on TV. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
There's this black man that's a doctor with a wife who's a lawyer, living in the brownstone with 4 kids growing up. The imagery without the forceful dialogue was like more important than the forceful dialogue.
And the dialogue now, when they start getting into some of the more politically charged stuff, it's like, are you talking to the other character or are you talking to the audience? Like the other character, the antagonist and the protagonist. The antagonist is there, but are they speaking to that character, or are they really speaking to the audience? Right. And that's where it kind of gets, and regardless of what you're starting to get sanctimonious, and maybe people don't feel don't want to. They just want to be mindlessly entertained, and not necessarily get all the political things with it. That show New Amsterdam got real heavy into it. The only reason that I saw it was because it was on after one of the shows my wife watches, which was also full of it too, with all the had to have the correct talking points and the shows I don't not watch them because they have it. I don't watch them because I don't find them entertaining. Right. If they were entertaining, then sure, I'd watch it.
But when you do, let's say you have an opportunity like that where you do watch it, they have a chance to rope you in, and instead they pushed you away.
Yeah.
And it's not because of the message they sent, it's how they're sending it.
Yeah.
They're trying to take a sledgehammer and just bash your brains in with it. And I know there's some people out there going to be like, well, it needs to be done. People aren't understanding the point. People don't get the point. Mm-hmm. Right. But you're never going to yell at someone and get them to change their mind.
Right.
That's not how it's the old win friends and influence people.
Yeah.
That's not how you do it. And as much as you want it to happen tomorrow, if you take the Cosby Show approach that lasted for 8 to 10 seasons, that's 10 years of messaging.
Oh, yeah.
A Different World, 8 seasons of messaging. Mm-hmm. Family Matters, another 7, 8 seasons of messaging. But again, though, well-written shows. They weren't there specifically because they were about black families.
Yeah.
They were there, and people watched because they were great shows. People loved the writing. People loved the actors.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they could do the same thing today. The problem, and this kind of goes to our culture today. Everybody wants it done now.
Yeah, immediately.
I want change done now.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, you're dealing with human brains. You're not going to force. You're not going to get your sledgehammer and pound it into them, or send them to the firing squad. It doesn't work like that. You're never. In fact, if you do that, you might actually push people away from your message.
Yeah. Yeah,
you're actually going to be counterproductive to what you're trying to do.
Yeah, if you yell at somebody and like, well, I'm not going to sit here and let you yell at me. I mean, you can be telling somebody the greatest ideas, but if you're going to go and take that, the scorched earth policy,
right,
and you're just going to turn a bunch of people off. But some of the shows back, I mean, I remember 90210 started touching on issues, and my sister loved that show. And that show would get into things like teen pregnancy and AIDS and abusive relationships and all this stuff. And it was like thought-provoking. But that show was a soap opera. It was designed it was not a sitcom. But that show, through touching on these different issues, would spark conversation. And I think that should be the goal, is to spark conversation rather than to just pound some. If I want to change your mind, I'm not going to sit here and just yell and scream at you and pound it into your head with a sledgehammer. He's going to build a wall. But hey, let's have a conversation about it.
Right.
And that's what 90210 did. They forced some of these conversations. Like, I think there were a lot of parents that watched that show that weren't ready to have the teen pregnancy conversation with their kid yet, and now all of a sudden, hey, it's there.
Well, and the funny thing, you slid it into one episode out of 10.
Yeah.
And now you got people having the conversation, and it didn't take the whole episode.
Yeah.
It didn't take the whole. It was maybe 5 to 10 minutes of that episode.
Yeah, because
you got people talking about it. You accomplished your mission right there.
Yeah, and the soap opera had, and these shows do, an hour-long show essentially has different storylines running together.
Right. Yeah.
And even, my wife watches This Is Us, and it'll have the different storylines running. 90210 did it. Even the soap operas my mother watched during the day, they had the different storylines running.
Right.
90210 would have the controversial storyline running, and then it would have the comic relief running with Steve, whatever his name was, that drove the Corvette. Like, that would be going simultaneously, back and forth to one another. So you didn't have, it wasn't the entire show full of just deep, intense.
Well, I want to give you, this might be one of the best examples. And this was, I don't remember what year the movie Philadelphia came out.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason why it's in my mind is because I was talking with some other friends about Tom Hanks and the versatility of him as an actor, and even Denzel Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And Denzel's one of the best actors out there.
Yeah.
And they were both in Philadelphia. And this is right around the time when AIDS and HIV, like, information, people were scared of it because they didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
That movie brought so much attention to the topic, and people are going to say, but that's over the top. That's taking a sledgehammer to it. It is and it isn't. And the reason why I say it isn't is because you had two extremely talented actors. Tom Hanks was almost unrecognizable in that movie.
Yep.
And the writing was so well. And yes, there was an emphasis on Tom Hanks, his character, having AIDS. But it humanized him. It made him human. So people didn't think of AIDS the disease or HIV the disease. They saw the person with it. Right.
Rather than just thinking, oh, that's a disease of the inner city. That's a disease of homosexuals. No, this is a dude that could be your brother, your friend,
right?
Anyone that could be him, this young, vibrant guy. And next thing you know, I've never seen the movie, but also with that movie, you knew what you were getting into when you went to go see, or like if you're going to go, you're like, Philadelphia, this must be about the Liberty Bell. No, you know what it's, you're getting into.
But it was, it humanized the disease so that people didn't think of the disease and like, oh, it's this, and I can't believe it's this. It's only for these people.
Yeah.
No. You watch the movie, it humanized the disease. And oddly enough, and you're going to think I'm nuts, but there's a movie called The Dallas Buyers Club.
Mm-hmm.
And Matthew McConaughey and Jared Leto were in that movie. Again, it was another really well-written movie and two really good actors.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, while the whole movie is about this cowboy, this heterosexual, woman-loving cowboy riding bulls, gets the disease.
Mm-hmm.
And he was one of those, you would call him a homophobe, because he probably was,
mm-hmm.
who basically you see his transition from womanizing cowboy to HIV, and he goes and he goes and finds medicines that aren't approved in the U.S. He's like, all the medicines they're giving you in the U.S. are killing people. They're not helping people. When he goes down to Mexico, gets some drugs, starts bringing them back to the U.S., and he gets caught by the DEA for selling drugs.
Yeah.
So that's when he creates the Dallas Buyers Club, and people would join the club, and with the membership, they get the medicines.
Yeah.
So now he's not dealing with, he's selling memberships. He goes, I'm not selling drugs, I'm selling memberships.
Yeah.
But what it did was, though, because of the writing of that movie, it humanized the disease again.
Yeah.
Now, Dallas Buyers Club came out much later than Philadelphia, but I think it was a movie with a purpose. But it was also something people wanted to go see. Like, it was a good movie. Like, even if you didn't get the message, those two actors in that movie, I mean, Jared Leto was a cross-dressing gay man in that movie. But, man, did he play that well.
Yep.
Like, so well, man. Like, so, I think there are ways for some of these writers to kind of get the messages they want across. And, yes, it's going to take time to change minds and influence people. But you're never going to win anybody's mind over by hitting them with a sledgehammer. And in fact, you're going to do more damage.
Right.
Because in this day and age, if you tell someone you're wrong for thinking this, and you don't want to actually sit down and listen to them, all they're going to do is go run and find someone who believes somewhat what they believe.
Oh, they'll just put themselves in an echo chamber.
Or not just the echo, but you're going to go anywhere other than the person screaming at you.
Yeah.
And what happens if you push that person into an extreme, in another extreme group that's completely the opposite of you, and just to fit in, they start saying the same stuff the extreme people are. Right. Now you now only haven't helped your cause. You've heard it even worse than you thought.
Yeah.
And nobody's thinking about this stuff, though.
No, and I also wonder, like, when network TV does it, some of the most disingenuous people in the world are employed in that industry.
Of course.
So when the entire episode of New Amsterdam is about the doctor, whatever his name is, running around taking pictures down, and are you trying to push him? Or are you just trying to virtue signal? Well, and that's just NBC virtue signaling.
Listen, Hollywood 5 years ago. What was going on? Do you remember what was going on in Hollywood 5 years ago?
No.
Me Too. Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah.
No, I don't mean like Me Too as in
don't know.
We're thinking the same.
Yeah.
No, I'm thinking hashtag Me Too.
Yeah.
Every man in Hollywood needs to go to prison for making women get down.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, people really aren't talking about Me Too anymore, are they?
No.
But Hollywood is the last industry on earth to be preaching to anybody about morals.
Right. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Look, men, women, I don't care.
Yeah.
Who you are. If you are in Hollywood right now and you're out there trying to talk about how you're so open and you think everybody should have this and that and that, no. Because 5 years ago, we just found out about all your dark secrets in that closet.
Yeah.
And if this wasn't happening right now, if Orange Man Bad didn't happen, if last year's riots didn't happen, or protests, or any of this stuff, we'd still be talking about Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah.
And the 20 to 30 other producers, directors, or whoever who did the same thing. Because, There's no shot only one dude was doing all that.
No, he's the guy that got caught.
He got caught hard, and they turned on him like they sung like canaries on him.
Oh yeah,
just to protect themselves.
Yep. And then they wrapped some other ones up. What was his name? The guy from the Today Show. Matt Lauer.
Yeah, And look, you're not going to tell me that maybe 5 dudes were doing everything.
Yeah,
6 dudes.
Right.
You know, look. Let's say there were 15 of them. Well, we didn't hear about the other 10 because someone squashed that real quick.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Now they might be still prosecuting some people, but you want to know what we got instead? You want to know what the media decided to talk about? Aunt Becky getting her kids into college.
Yeah.
Like, that's some crime. Oh, Aunt Becky paid for her kids to go to USC, and she paid to get them admitted.
Yeah.
She might have did it a little differently, but guess what? Nepotism happens.
Yeah, isn't every building named after somebody that was trying to get their kid into college?
Of course. Of course.
What was the episode of The Simpsons where Mr. Burns is trying to get his long lost son into Harvard? Like, sir, there's nothing you can do. And he goes, how about an international airport?
I'm of the proponent. If you're seeing something reported in the media, the mainstream media, someone is rope-a-doping you so you don't look at the real problem. I mean, it was anybody outside of maybe 5 kids who didn't get into USC that year really that pissed off at Aunt Becky?
Yeah.
No one cared.
Right.
It was like, oh, wait, a rich person bought their kid into school? Yeah, we knew that. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for the news report. we knew that was happening already.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe they were just reporting on, like, USC.
Yeah.
Come on now. Stanford, Harvard, the Ivies.
Yeah.
Get out of here if you don't think there's nepotism and people getting their kids into school.
George W. Bush went to Yale.
Yeah. He deserved to get in with his straight C's.
Donald Trump went to Penn. So.
Right. Actually, I don't even know. He always says he went to Wharton, which is the Wharton School of Business.
Yeah.
He'll never say he went to UPenn.
Yeah.
I went to Wharton.
Right. Even though Penn is an Ivy League. But
you went to Wharton because your daddy got you into Wharton.
Yeah.
It wasn't because you had the grades to go to Wharton. All these Ivy League schools, if you're some schlub off the street, if you don't have a 4.0, 3 extracurriculars, and can write a gem of an entrance essay and probably play 3 instruments, you're not getting in.
Right.
Just not I'm sorry.
Yeah, you pretty much have to already be in Skull and Bones to get into this place.
I mean, look, I'm sorry. I know people think that this shouldn't be how the world works. Your last name matters.
Yeah.
And not just by, I'm not saying the actual name. I'm just saying if you are a legacy at a school, it helps. Well, it's just the way it is.
It even helps with preschool.
Right.
So your third kid get ready. You get they actually have points. You get your legacy points or whatever. So for every year that one of your kids went there prior, you get points. So by the time the third kid gets in there, it's that's your whatever you want.
Well, I mean,
so
it's like, why do you think a lot of inner city public schools suck? Well, because the rich families ain't sending their kids to the public schools.
Right.
If they were, they'd be a heck of a lot better.
Yeah.
But instead, they're going to the little private school down the road where mommy and daddy make a nice $20,000 to $40,000 donation called tuition.
Yeah.
And little Johnny gets into preschool.
Yeah.
And for people who don't think that's real, some preschools cost $20,000.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, shoot, we live down the street from a private school, a high school, $22,000 for a year for high school. You got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
But by going to that school, I think it's close to 60 to 70% of those kids go to Ivy League schools.
Yep.
From that high school. And look, I don't blame any parent if you have the means. If you pay for your kid to get a better leg up on life. Because you always want what's best for your kids.
Yeah.
And if you have the opportunity to pay for that opportunity, granted, it says nothing about how you raise the kid. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying a lot of opportunities in this world depend on the connections you make.
Mm-hmm.
It's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah. And that holds true throughout government,
of course,
business.
Think about the friends you make the first time you go to work.
Yeah.
If you're buddies with the right guy who has the right ambition, who runs up the ranks,
yeah,
and he pulls you along,
yeah, that dude's gonna look out for you.
He's gonna look out for you.
Yeah.
Happens no matter what industry you're in.
Yeah.
No matter. Yeah. No matter. It doesn't matter what you're doing. School, work, doesn't matter.
Yep. The only place that doesn't really come into play too much is sports. And it does a little bit, but but for sports, especially when you get to the high D1 pro levels, that is all just can you produce?
Well, look, let's talk Orioles for a minute.
So,
was Billy Ripken really a major league ball player?
He's nice. He's a nice guy.
He's super nice, gem of a human being.
Yeah,
but
right.
Cal was playing short, and Daddy was on the bench.
Yeah,
maybe that had something to do with it.
Yeah,
but it certainly wasn't because he could hit.
Right, and then you hear some other like Wayne Gretzky had brothers that got their shot, but the thing is, they didn't last.
Right.
They didn't go play for the Oilers and the Kings because Wayne was there.
Right.
They played a couple years at with Buffalo or whatever lousy team needed the position they played, and then they eventually rolled out of the league. So Cal had a lot more longevity than Billy did. You can ask even the most casual baseball fan; they'll be able to tell you about Cal Ripken. They won't be able to tell you anything about Billy.
Right. We're the only ones that know about Billy because we live in the area. Yeah. But yeah, I think going back to these show writers, I think a lot of it's got to do with the fact that I do think Netflix, Disney, and Disney. Well, I don't even know about Disney because Disney's got their own franchises that they're writing for right now. Yeah. But Netflix, Amazon, they were brand new to the game. They didn't have a partnership to kind of piggyback off of. And in order to get, if I'm a writer and I want my show to air, in early days, if I went to Netflix, I was taking a real chance on them.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have the subscriber base they do now. And if my only goal is to get my show seen,
mm-hmm.
Maybe I don't go with a Netflix and lose about $10 million off that show as a production company, right?
Yeah.
Because the production company's thinking, look, if I can make this show work, my next payday is even bigger.
Yeah.
So I think what Netflix did was, rather than saying, look, it's a $5 million difference between ABC and us, it's a $10 million difference. And people are like, well, I guess I'm taking that $10 million now.
Yeah.
Bird in the hands were two in the bush. And it worked for them.
Yeah, and
but it definitely drew some talent away from the networks.
No, and when you look at say House of Cards, that was Kevin Spacey.
Yeah,
I mean that was you're talking to
actually wasn't it Robin Wright?
Wright,
who was actually the producer on that, or were they both co-producers or something like that?
Well,
she was a big part of that.
Yeah, but as far as the cast, Kevin Spacey was a movie star.
Yeah,
he wasn't doing TV.
You're right.
And they brought him in, and then but even when Netflix first started. Back when you actually had to mail you a DVD,
right?
And then when they got into their streaming, but when they, it was almost like, oh, you're, it was almost like the second tier, like the AAA, oh, you're in Netflix. But now they started producing good content and winning awards, and getting a lot of attention to what they were doing and attracting good writers, but then they can take a chance, all these goofy shows like Bridgerton, they're cheesy romance novels. And they needed content because everyone's just burning through it because of COVID. So they're like, oh, let's write this show. Let's write that show.
They also took a shot with those PBS shows.
Mm-hmm.
Or not PBS did. I'm sorry. So PBS, and they did this with Downton Abbey. That was actually a show in Britain.
Yeah.
That they pulled over. They brought it over.
Mm-hmm.
And Netflix saw that and saw that people liked it.
Yeah.
And so they started doing it too with some other shows.
Mm-hmm.
And...
what is it? Peaky Blinders.
Yeah. And now they've got Gangs of London,
yep.
Which, by the way, if you haven't seen Gangs of London, it's a really good show.
Mm-hmm.
And Peaky Blinders, look, shout out to one of our old neighbors. He's the one that put me on to Peaky Blinders.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say his name. He's down in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
He put me on that show.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, what is this nonsense? That first season, man, it got me sucked in for the next 5.
Another friend of mine was telling me about that. And the thing is, I need to get invested into a show. But when I'm in, I'm all in.
Yeah.
There's no like my wife and I watched. I forget the name. It was on HBO. It was Hugh Grant and not Gina Davis, Nicole Kidman, I think.
I don't even remember.
I forget the name of the show, but we watched that. Like we got super into that, and I was into it. But it takes a lot for me to get into it. Like if I'm not gonna. I almost need like too many friends to say, "Oh, like yeah, you gotta watch it, and then I'll finally watch it. So, but Netflix is able to take chances on some of this stuff.
Yeah. And Disney Plus did a little bit of that with WandaVision. Mm-hmm. And you and I had talked about WandaVision. I don't think have you seen WandaVision yet? So WandaVision was an interesting show, in that the first 3 episodes, everyone was like, "What the heck is this nonsense?" Mm-hmm. It's like some weird throwback TV show. Nobody could figure it out. Like, what am I watching this for? And then, like, end of episode 3, episode 4 hits, and you're like, "Oh wow, this is intense."
Yeah,
and it brought it all together. But that, to me, that's good writing.
Yeah, no, that is what is it? Stranger Things. I don't think a TV executive who has to sell ad space, because that's how they make their money, is through selling ad revenue,
right,
is going to take a crack at that show, because if it bombs, right, then that for the remainder of the time that show airs, that advertising. But Netflix is just subscriptions.
Yeah, well, it's the same thing with Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah,
I mean, WandaVision was like their. Beside The Mandalorian, this was like their next TV show, mm-hmm, right? And Mandalorian got people to sign up with that super teaser rate. It was like $4, $5 a month, and you got mm-hmm ESPN Plus and Hulu Plus.
Yeah.
The Mandalorian, the WandaVision though, was like the next new thing, and mm-hmm, they didn't know how it was It wasn't Star Wars anymore.
Yeah.
It was part of the Marvel universe, but it was a lesser known characters in Vision and Wanda. And man, that got such good buzz after that 3rd episode that their subs went way up. And that was that was during the whole Gina Carano thing, mm-hmm, where she got fired from The Mandalorian for her tweet or whatever.
Yeah. And the thing is, and I disagree with that.
Right.
However,
I do too.
Her character had kind of run its course.
Yeah, she wasn't going to be. She had one more season left anyway.
Yeah, and but the thing is with those. With the stuff that Disney by Disney owning the entire franchise, so like Disney can take. So Boba Fett was not a big time character in Star Wars.
Right.
People got obsessed with Boba Fett because he looked cool.
Right.
And then they create this whole thing with him. And, if you get super nerdy into canon and non-canon and fan written and all this other stuff with Star Wars, but Disney can now do that, and they can monetize all of it. Yeah. They could do who's the dude in the first, like in Jar Jar Binks. Oh, God. Hopefully he's gone forever.
I think they're going to turn that into a kid series. I think they're going to take the Jar Jar Binks character and species.
Yeah. I
think they're going to turn it into like a cartoon for kids.
They could. Yeah.
I mean, it's goofy enough, right?
But like the guy who shot first, Han Solo or the other guy?
Right. Well, they did that with the movie. They turned Solo into a completely different movie.
Yeah, exactly. So they made Han Solo is a big character.
Yeah.
But they could take that dude who Han Solo blasted and do an entire series. They can take Stormtroopers, and they can do, because they own the entire universe, and that's how Disney makes their money. They sell your memories back to you.
Well, they could do a kid series with the Ewoks.
Yeah,
they could do an actual an adult series with Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah,
and like you can deal with their whole story, not just the little snippets they got from the movies.
Yep.
And so, yeah, you're right. I mean, Disney's got the writers, though, where they can take a snippet of a character from a franchise and mm-hmm turn it into a series.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got a gold mine there that they could just hammer out characters for years.
Yeah, and if they own Marvel, too, they can do it.
And they do. They got Marvel, too. And that's what they did with WandaVision, though.
Yeah.
They took 2 lesser-known Marvel heroes, and they turned it into a TV series.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, like that. I think that kind of, I mean, people were on board with Disney because it's Disney, right?
Yeah.
But I think WandaVision and the press it got, and now they've got the Falcon and Winter Soldier right after that. Like, they're still putting out the new content. So the subscribers are going up, where they're never going to put that on ABC.
No,
they're never going to do that. Why?
Yeah,
they're going to make more money off of Disney Plus than they do off of ABC and ad revenue.
Yeah, because people will pay anything, and then now because Disney owns ESPN too.
Yeah,
and the
their
NHL
ratings are going down.
Oh yeah, and it's funny because I haven't watched. I'm a big sports fan. I have not watched a live sporting event in weeks. I'm not like.
I watched the NFL. Right. That's it though.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'll watch the NHL playoffs. I'm not a big NBA fan, but to be honest with you, I kind of like the NBA playoffs, but I like it for the atmosphere with the fans in the stands.
Yeah, there's no fans.
But especially NHL hockey.
It loses so much without the fans.
It does. It does. And with the playoffs, though, and I don't remember the guy's name. There was always one announcer for the NHL. When he announced the game, I don't care who was playing. It could have been the Phoenix Coyotes playing the old Florida Panthers. Yeah. And I would be into it because he was into it.
Yeah. Doc Emmerich was really good. And I'm hoping that with so if ESPN goes back to, because they're going to start showing hockey.
They got the rights. So NHL Center Ice is gone.
Yeah.
And it's going to be on ESPN Plus.
Yeah.
And if that's part of that Disney Plus package. Yeah. With Hulu Plus, I mean that's a good sales pitch for hockey fans, especially so anyone north of Pennsylvania. Yeah. Is going to be into that.
They're going to do well with that, but I kind of see everything going where I don't think people are happy spending scads of money on the Verizon Fios or this case. You just pick and choose what you want. If you're not a big big NBA fan, I don't care if I ever see an NBA game. But if I'm a huge hockey fan, I'll pay for that. And you're going to get into people just buying what they want. But then the streaming services will come out with some show that everyone wants to see, like a bunch of people did with The Mandalorian. They subscribed to Disney Plus only to see The Mandalorian.
But the good thing about it is, though, because you don't have to watch it on Sunday at 8, I can buy a month of Disney Plus, watch The Mandalorian, and then next month pay for Netflix. Yep. I can go if I'm savvy enough, which people aren't. I mean,
most people are just going to let it run.
It's the old theory behind your cable and your cell phone. They get you in with the teaser rate for a reason. And it's because 70% of people, once the initial contract is up, will not shop for another service. Yeah. And they know that. They know 70%. That's a huge retention. Oh yeah. And when they give you that $79 for cable, let's say it's Comcast or Cox or whatever, they give you that $79 internet and cable package for 1 year. Yeah. And after that 1 year, though, it's $150. Yeah. It's a huge increase. And all of a sudden now you're also paying for the DVR. They threw in the DVR. They threw in, apparently HD is an upgrade, but they threw in the HD. Now everything you're paying for. So now your bill is $150 plus another $30, because now you're paying for all the boxes you got. Yep. Well, now people are like, if 70% of people are going to stay, why wouldn't they give you the teaser rate? Yeah. And they know they're going to lose 30%, but they don't care.
Well, it's like when you go get your oil changed at Jiffy Lube. So you pull in, they're like, oh, it's the $29.95 oil change. They're not making any money on that oil change. Right. Zero. What they're making money on is like, oh, your cabin air filter needs to be refreshed? And you're there, you don't know anything about cars. So you say, sure, how much is it? $52. Like, oh, well, that sounds important. I'll pay.
It's $5 part.
Right.
Took them 10 minutes to swap it out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, you need some transmission fluid. We can top that off for you. Oh, sure. How much is that? Transmission sounds important. Oh, yeah, that'll be $40. Sure. And that's where they're making their money. Right. And just like you're saying with the cable stuff, like, yeah, they're going to lose money or break even on the teaser rate, but they know. And the subscription things, I mean, I had 2 gym memberships for 2 years. Right. I didn't go to either one of them. Right. Right. I paid for an alarm system in my house that the thing never worked. And I just never got around to canceling it because you don't think about it. It just comes out of your account. It's like a leech. But if it's not, if you have a boat and it's just leaking a little bit, oh yeah. Now when the boat starts riding low in the water, you might start thinking, oh well, what's going on here? But
right,
so you just allow it to continue.
Well, the weird thing is, so people will complain about their cable bundle, right? Oh, it's too much money. There's too many channels I don't watch. Okay, well now you're going to need internet, and what these cable companies are doing, they're supplying your internet.
Mm-hmm.
Your internet, instead of being $40 like it should, is now going to be, if you don't get the cable, your internet is now $99 a month.
Yeah.
And now you're going to add Netflix. If you have the top end Netflix plan, it's $20
mm-hmm.
or it's $21 for that Netflix plan. Disney Plus, I think, is going up to $14 a month.
Mm-hmm.
So with just Netflix and Disney Plus, that's $36 additional.
Yeah.
Already on your plan.
Yep.
Now Discovery Plus is coming out. You got Hulu Plus if you don't bundle it with Disney Plus and ESPN Plus and all these pluses. There's Paramount Plus from CBS, like the CBS All Access, and now Paramount Plus.
Yep.
Why are they calling it Plus? Just call it Paramount. There's no Paramount for you to have a Paramount Plus. But
I'm just waiting for UPN Plus.
Right. Or CW Plus.
The WB Plus.
My TV Plus. It's all coming to you. But this is what they're going to do. And I'll be interested to see how this goes. Because at some point, what about the independent networks out there?
Yeah.
Now, are there anymore? I don't really know, to be honest with you. But like TNT, who do they belong to?
Yeah, I'm not.
TNT is it Turner?
Yeah, TNT, TBS is all Turner. So CNN. Well, CNN was.
But they're gonna have to go. But they're part of HBO.
Yeah.
Because I think they're part of the. I think Turner and HBO is all part of the same thing.
Well,
it's all part of AT&T.
Yeah.
Or some stuff.
Well, because Comcast went out and picked up. NBC Universal and Comcast is all the same.
Right.
Disney, ESPN, ABC is all the same. Then AT&T. Then next thing you know, we'll have the T-Mobile bundle with somebody.
Right. And you still got Sony hanging out there as a production company. Where are they going to put their stuff, though?
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't have the cable bundle, where can everyone? Where's one person going to go and get it all in the same place?
Yeah.
And I mean, people are going to say, well, people just use apps now. They all watch on their cell phones.
But see, there's also.
But it's like, yeah, but I don't want to have to go search for my thing.
Right. There's also people like our parents who don't want to go and use Fire Sticks and use smart TVs. They want to turn the TV on and they want to use their guide system and they want to go to where they want to watch.
Channel 55, that's where I know I'm going to watch my stuff.
Yeah, that's what they want. And the people will pay for that. So I know, sometimes somebody on Netflix I don't feel like switching over. But now they're even offering Netflix with different...
Right.
You can get Netflix with, I think it's Verizon. You can get Netflix included.
And so the cable companies got smart. They're putting the apps on the box.
Yeah.
Because essentially, when you're going with Verizon now, they're essentially just giving you a Fire Stick with apps.
Yeah.
And so, and that's what they're all doing. Comcast is doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
The apps are on the box.
Yeah.
So when you go to the home screen, you're either clicking guide for live TV. You're clicking on Netflix.
Yeah.
You're clicking on Discovery Plus.
Mm-hmm.
You click on Disney Plus. So you're essentially using apps on your cable box, and you didn't even realize that that's what they forced you to do. Yeah. and
watch them bundle all the streaming services together. Like, for $279, you can have this internet and you can have all the streaming services. And people start doing that.
When you're back to where you started, you're back to the cable bundle. Well, and you want to know who else is doing it? The cell phone people.
Mm-hmm.
Buy T-Mobile, Netflix on us.
Oh yeah, what is it? Verizon has NFL.
Yeah,
comes with it.
Right.
And now, do you remember the
AT&T? Like, we've got AT&T. That whole DirecTV Plus that's gone is now called AT&T TV.
Mm-hmm.
Comes with your cell phone plan.
Yeah, I'm
like, all right, so I pay for my cell phone plan. I got cable thrown in. What do I need cable for now? Like, it's like, come on, man. I don't. Like, it's going to be really confusing, I think, in the future because everyone's going to try and own their own thing. Yeah. And people are just going to be like, I just want to watch Property Brothers.
Yeah.
Where do I find Property Brothers?
I just want to watch Steve Harvey.
Right.
What is
By the way, Steve Harvey on Family Feud is hysterical.
Oh, he is. And if you watch the uncut versions.
Yeah. Oh my God. I watch those on YouTube all the time. I cry laughing.
That dude just gets, because they edit that stuff to make it fit and for content. And that dude is hilarious. And the way he gets going with people. And then he doesn't even need a hype man, but he's got a hype man that comes out before the show and gets everyone fired up. And then the stuff that he just goes on and on. I mean, I've watched some of those YouTube things, and they're just, I mean, they are absolutely, they should just play that.
Right.
That could play all the time.
So we have definitely talked about our TV gripes.
Yeah.
We need better writers out there. If you want to get people back to the primetime TV, get better writers, write your stuff. And who knows where the TV's going in the future. But I think for now, I think we've killed this horse a little bit, and we're going to let you all go. And please go to dumbideapodcast.com. You can subscribe on any podcast platform from there. We hope you enjoyed listening to us, and we hope you come back in 2 weeks. We try and drop these episodes every other Tuesday. And we'll see you next time.